always one of my favorite moments every year is just looking out and seeing, for us, this is 18 months worth of prep coming together, and so it's really exciting. I remember in 2019, I was getting ready for the 2020 Grow Retreat, and I was talking to this was when I was booking speakers, and I was talking to one of my agents that I book through a lot, and explained the theme to her, which was immersion for 2020, and she's telling me about all these speakers that she thinks are a really good fit. And she's telling me about one in particular that she's raving about this guy. She's like, Stephanie, you want to know someone who knows how to create immersion? You need this speaker. This is the guy you have to book. And I'm listening to her talk, and when I book speakers for the Grow Retreat, I'm always looking for two things. One is I want someone who is the expert in what they're going to talk about. So they need to actually know what they're going to talk about. I frequently tell speakers when I'm interviewing them, some of these people could probably be on stage talking about their own topics. So you need to know more than them about your topic. We can't have people who've done something once. I want someone who's done it again and again and who's just brilliant at this. But secondarily, I'm also looking for people who can actually talk to small business owners. And leadership speakers are a lot of the ones I find here, where I will get a leadership speaker who does a ton of corporate stuff. And corporate leadership and small business leadership are not really the same thing, yes or yes. It's a little different dog there. So I am always looking for pens, apparently. I am always looking for, Tanya says same. I am always looking for speakers who are the expert and can talk about their topic and can talk to small business. So she's talking to me about the speaker. All I'm thinking is, I'll interview him because I trust her as an agent, but I'm not really sure what a baseball team owner can talk about to small businesses. And some of y'all might have just figured out who that speaker was, because I showed up on that call, and this guy pops up, big energy, banana yellow tuxedo, bowler hat, and so started, don't tell my husband, a love affair with the Savannah Bananas and Jesse Cole. And we had him out to speak in 2020. We had him out to speak at the Growcation 2022, because I realized that not only is this guy brilliant at immersion, but yes, he is also brilliant at talking to small business owners. He gets it. And the reason that I share with that is because, how many of y'all have heard of the Savannah Bananas, by the way? At least, okay, so the bananas have blown up. When we had Jesse out to speak in 2022, they had just had an 8-part ESPN series created about them. They had a 1 million-person wait list for tickets. They were really blowing up. And one of the ways they pulled that off, they were a baseball team. And they started as a summer, college league baseball team. This is not the team people are flying across the country to see, except they are now. And they did it because Jesse has always leaned into and embraced play. And he has done it across his culture. He's done it across his marketing. He's done it across his product. He and his team have made play a huge piece of what they do. And they're a beautiful example of when we lean into play, what we can make happen in our businesses. So when I put my opening keynote for the Grow Retreat together, I'm always looking for two things as well. I like to work in 2s and 3s because they're easier for me to remember. But I'm always looking for two things. First is, I've been studying this theme. This particular theme I've been studying for 20 months, right? We choose our themes for the Grow Retreat well in advance of the retreat. And I'm always looking for I have a whole slew of things I look for there. But I've now spent almost 2 years really paying attention to play and gamification and all these pieces. And I want to give y'all a glimpse of what I've discovered this can do for your businesses with this opening keynote. And the other thing I'm always looking to do is, how can I do something that I haven't done before on the violin? Which was really easy the first year I did it, because all I had to do was walk up and play, so that was great. But every year I keep doing this, it gets a little harder, because I keep doing things on the violin, and now I have to find something new. And so this year, when I was trying to think of what do I want to do on the violin, what have I not done, I realized there is something I have not done that's really fun and playful. And that is, I've not played an Irish jig for y'all. So this morning, we're gonna do an Irish jig. And usually I leave the violin for the end of the keynote, and then I like build up to it. And today I'm gonna play it for y'all first, and then we're gonna talk about why, and what exactly, like how this exemplifies play, and how this brings my key points together here. But the thing about Irish jigs is they're pretty simple, right? How many of y'all, everyone plays Irish jigs in their off time, right? Y'all are fairly okay. That's what I thought. So most Irish jigs are a repetitive, like it's really just like 2 lines that just repeat. So this one's the Irish washerwoman, and this one's really, really basic. Like this is a very simple, and then the second line. It's really, really simple. And so I went to Susanna because I said, well, you know, it's fun, it's playful, but let's make it like next level fun. And once again, for those of y'all who were here last year and heard me use this exact same joke, Susanna doesn't say no to me often enough and said, sure, sounds like fun stuff. So I said, look, I saw this cool video. This guy started with a bass line, and then he added in like all of these layers, and it just like, it was really cool. Can we do this for an Irish jig? And so Susanna worked with me, and we came up with basically a backing track that if you listen, you can hear it's all violin, and we layer in add, but we left one piece for y'all. Can anyone guess what part of the Irish jig we might have left for the audience? All right, so there is the rhythm, right? The clapping piece. So I want to encourage y'all to get involved. If you think about, like, Irish jigs started back in probably Ireland. And they were the thing that people who worked really hard physical jobs went to the pub on a Friday and needed a break from all of the crazy, hard physical. And this was what they played, it came, they brought them together, it's meant to be done by people who are drunk. So I figured a bunch of entrepreneurs even at 9 o'clock in the morning can clap along to this one. All right, so we're gonna play through. It's pretty, it's simple, it's easy, but clap, enjoy it. Those of you guys who decide to get up and dance a jig win the whole event. Just throwing that out there now. Tanya goes, what are we winning? Clear the dance floor. All right, we ready, Devin? About an Irish jig is if you miss a few notes, 2 notes later it's the exact same note, so it's really quite easy to get back on track. I love opening with the violin for a variety of reasons at the Grow Retreat. 1, it's kind of fun. 2, it kind of gets my nerves out of the way because then I just get to play for a minute and like let everything go. But 3, there's actually something really fascinating that happens in the body and in the brain on like a neurophysiological level when we make music together. So 4 things happen. They took a bunch of musicians, they sat them down, they hooked them up to a bunch of machines, and they found out 4 things happen in the body. First and foremost, we get an increase in the production of oxytocin. We get an increase in the production of dopamine. We get a decrease in the production of cortisol, and our brain waves actually start to sync up. So in like non-nerdy terms, what that means is oxytocin So oxytocin frequently gets like mislabeled as the love hormone. It kind of is, but really it's the connection hormone. This is what happens when we look at people. We have an actual connection and a conversation, and we're able to really like connect. It's an empathy hormone. Dopamine is it's a feel-good hormone. It's the one you get when you have a bunch of sugar or you win the lottery. But it is also a motivation hormone. So has anyone ever done like those like goal-setting sessions where by the end of the session, you've like set a goal to move Mount Kilimanjaro from Africa to your office because by God, you can surely achieve it? That was the dopamine talking. Because the next day you were like, I don't have enough shovels for that. Like, what the heck was that? That's the dopamine. We get excited, we get that feel, we start going, right? So dopamine helps us feel good, it helps us motivate. For those of y'all who've listened to me talk about people with ADHD for the past few years, it is also a hormone that ADHD brains tend to have challenges with producing and regulating, which is a challenge because dopamine is also what moves us from focus mode to create mode. Which is why a lot of times individuals with ADHD can get stuck in focus mode or create mode and have a hard time switching between the two of them. So we make music together, we get an increase in dopamine, we get an increase in oxytocin, we get a decrease in cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So, and then also our brainwaves start to sync up and we start to think similar, we start to connect better. And so they did this study a while back with musicians because they sit still. But then equipment started to get better and they decided to test this out on athletes. So they test this out on athletes and they found out same thing happens. When athletes are really synced up, when they're playing as a team, the same thing happens. And then they found out that when you listen to live music together, to a slightly lesser extent, the same thing happens. Have you ever gone to a concert and you sit down at the beginning of the concert and you're kind of like this? And by the end of the concert, you're like besties and you're like planning to get brunch tomorrow with the person next to you that you had no idea who this person was 10 minutes ago, 2 hours ago, depending on the length of the conference. That's because the same thing happens. And the reason that I start with the violin and I wanted to do this kind of play and get y'all involved with making part of the music is because I wanted you to have a moment to experience what it is like to be on a team where everyone is really pulling together. And I think we've all had that, probably. Both the teams where everyone's pulling together and the teams where everyone's not. Certainly not at any of our businesses. All of our teams are always on the same page, 100%. But we've all had those teams, the ones that everyone wanted to be there, everyone was engaged, everyone was excited, and the teams where one or two people were just not quite there. The thing about play, and the reason that I chose play as the theme for this year, is not just because more and more people are talking about it, which it is kind of, I've had multiple people come to me and be like, Stephanie, do you know the number of people who are talking about play now? I'm like, yes, I had a feeling that we were going to have more of this conversation. But the reason that I chose this is because play brings people together who want to be involved. And when we have people together who want to be involved, we make more happen. And we make more happen for a handful of reasons. First, more hands. So that's kind of basic math. And I might have failed math a couple of times, but I can count that one up. Now, let's be fair, it took me a while to learn that one. And I learned that one also at the 2020 Grow Retreat, which was a big learning year for me. Because we got to our venue for the Grow Retreat that year, and we were supposed to be in for setup at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And at 1:30, the people who were in that morning were still in the room. So Rachel, my lovely killer, goes to find the person. She says, hey, we're supposed to be in the room. Can we please get into the room? And the lady goes, okay, yeah, sure, let me, I'll go in and find out what's up. 2 o'clock, she finally comes back out and says, they're almost done. We're like, okay. 2:30, we go find her again, because we still can't get into the room. Forgot to tell y'all, we have to be out by 6 o'clock, is what they told us, because 3 o'clock, we are finally getting into the room. with almost half of our setup time gone. And something really interesting happened for me at that point, because up until that point, at the Grow Retreat, I had only ever done stuff that I could have done it all. I did not say I could have done it well. I did say I could have done it. Physically, I could have completed the entire thing. And that day, I couldn't. We did not have enough time. And so I got pushed into this role of, let me tell everyone what to do. I walked up, this is your section, here's the goal, walked off. At 5 o'clock, I stood on the stage, I looked out at the venue that was completely set up because we had a whole slew of speakers and volunteers and guests show up to help with setup. And everything had been done better than I could have done it, because I wasn't involved in all the pieces. So people went and found all these cool ways to make stuff happen. When we bring more people together, we get more stuff done. We also get more stuff done quicker because we're less stressed. And that less stress creates two things. One, we get things done quicker, but two, less chance of injury. If y'all remember back in like basic biology class, where I want to make a fist, my brain sends an electrical impulse through the body. Have I lost my? All right, so it sends the electrical impulse through the muscles to the hand, then I make a fist. And if you've ever worked out at the gym for like a really long time and you've like reached a point where like you try to go pick up your water bottle and your hands are like not working properly, it's because as you've worked out your muscles, they have gotten tense. And all of a sudden that electrical impulse goes from driving along 410 at 2 in the morning to driving along 410 at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning trying to get to the Grow Retreat. It's crowded. It's hard to get through. When we are relaxed, when we are less stressed, we are able to move faster physically, but when we are less stressed, we are able to move faster in our businesses too. We're able to see things that we need to react to, and as small business owners, that is one of our greatest competitive advantages. If you think about what we got to learn in COVID, was that the big businesses couldn't pivot like the small businesses could. We could pivot, we could shift, we had the ability to move. And then the second piece of less stress is that we get injured less, and therefore we are able to do more because we are not sidelined. So bringing more people together, playing brings more people together. It brings people together who want to be involved. It allows us to move faster, to get more done, and to stay in the game longer. And the challenge with play is that we think it's something we're supposed to be good at automatically. Because how many of you guys played as a kid? Might be harder for some of y'all to remember, but come on, this is like the are you breathing joke, all right? We all pretty much played as a kid, and then we kind of stopped playing. And I do a lot of talks about creativity, and I have learned there are two major misconceptions about creativity that also apply to play. The first major misconception about creativity is that it is inherent, and the same thing applies to play. We think we're automatically supposed to be good at play, because we did it as a kid. No one had to give us instructions on how to play as a kid. We just figured it out. But if you walk into the room and I'm like, go play, you're like, play what? The violin? Steph, I thought you wanted people to stay for the whole event. We need a framework. We need some sort of instruction to play it, right? It is not an inherent, it's a skill, and a skill is what we develop. Talent is inherent, right? But skills have to be built. They're muscles that we have to build over time. And the second misconception is the one I kind of just gave away, is that you have to have a framework to play. When we have a framework to play inside of, it's a lot easier to play. And so my big goal this year was to find people who could bring those frameworks, who could walk you through like the actual framework that made gamification a thing for corporations, and teach you how to gamify your goals and your marketing and your culture. Because if we can understand gamification, the framework that it works inside of, we can apply it across the board. I brought the people who can talk you through the frameworks of how to play inside of your culture, who can play inside of problem solving so that we're not hitting our heads against the wall trying to solve the same problem over and over. So I brought each of these experts because I think they're the right person to talk to you about how to do that specific thing. But before I wrap up, I want to give you a framework to figure out where should you be playing in your business for the next 2 days? Because there's a lot to cover over the next 2 days. So this is the framework I measure everything by in the business, and it's 3 pieces. 1 is my mission, 2 is my vision, and 3 is my core values. Mission, vision, and core values. Mission is, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? Because this has to go, I always tell my team, we don't really put on events. I mean, we do, but what we actually do is we create space for people who are already really damn good to reconnect with what makes them amazing. Because day to day inside the business, we lose sight of that. Yes or yes? Because you're getting pulled 60 different directions, and we don't put on events. We create space for people to reconnect with what makes them. That's our mission. The vision is, what are you building? It is the view you have of where you're going long term. And the core values are the quality standards you hold everything to in the business. Yourself, your team, your products, your services, everything gets held to, does this meet our core values? And so the framework for the next 2 days to figure out where you need to be playing is to ask yourself, of these 3 things, where am I furthest from the ideal? Are we living up to our core values? If not, do I need to work on culture and focus on the speakers who are talking about leadership and culture? Am I furthest from our vision and I need to start getting creative with my problem solving and how we're going to tackle growth ideas? Am I furthest from my mission? When you figure out where you are furthest from the mark, now you can figure out what you need to focus your attention on first. And that's where you focus your play for the next 2 days. The thing about play is that it does seem like it should be easy, and it's not. It requires, especially for those of us who don't play regularly, a little bit of focus, a little bit of practice. For the next 2 days, our speakers might ask you to do stuff that is a little outside of your comfort zone. And they might not always explain why they're asking you to do that up front. Kind of like getting y'all to play along with the music before telling you it was going to give you a surge of dopamine and oxytocin and all of the little hormones, right? Giving you something to do. So I'm going to encourage you to just relax, lean in, play with the Legos, build a bridge. That's where Brian will be for the rest of the entire event. I'm pretty sure building a bridge to hold weights because he's an engineer and that's how his brain works. But play, have fun with this stuff, do the stuff that seems a little bit odd, a little bit different, and just wait to see what comes out on the other side of it. This is your safe space to play. Jesse Cole and the Bananas did not get to where they are because their team are afraid to play. And I remember when we had him out in 2022 at the Growcation, I remember looking at him because they were huge at that point. And I remember looking at him and going, where do you go from here? You've hit all of the goals I heard you talk about in 2020. And I remember him sitting at the dinner table and talking about Banana Land and Bananas Foster and the Banana Cruises and all of the stuff and realizing he's never lost sight of where they're going next. He's never lost sight of how important play is. And they have continued to grow because now they've gone from a 1 million person wait list to a 3 million person wait list. They just sold out their first NFL stadium. They have grown massively and they continue to lean into play. And I'll encourage you to keep doing the same thing here. You all already run amazing businesses. You truly do. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. And there's always some small piece you can take away that will make a difference in how you apply things for the rest of the year. So let's make it a fun year. Let's play.